So
We're
my
at
number four.
Yep.
My number 4 is Critical Equation by Dr. Dog.
I've never heard of this person.
You've never heard of Dr. Dog. Okay,
No.
So Dr. Dog I've been listening to since like high school.
Is he a doctor or a dog?
Both. A doctor who got his PhD. So this is like almost a country album. Almost. But really, really psychedelic. Like, it's like almost like ballads. Like, everything kind of sounds like a ballad. Or like an ode to like some weird part of like living in the country or like living in just like unconventional ways, but with a really psyche feel. Like, you'll get organ on a lot of songs that just like makes everything just kind of sound, you know, big and wild and explosive. There's a song on this album, Virginia Please, that has been my go-to for like pretty much like, I want to say like 4 months now. Like, it's back when I first listened to the album. That's just my go-to. It makes me happy. Like, listening to this album just makes me happy because it's really different than anything I listen to. Like, it's not at all like sad experimental shit. It's like jams. Like, it makes you just kind of want to sit and just like kind of like pat your leg, like bop your head. I don't know. It's really fun. I wrote, it's great falling asleep, meditating on life music.
Okay.
Because it's just like, it's so happy. I don't know. It's just so happy. And Dr. Dog, like, is a genius. Lyricism-wise, if you have to listen to the lyrics in this album, at least on your first listen through. Like, you want to make sure you're, like, listening because all of the songs do, like, tell different stories. Mm-hmm. It's not, like, a cohesive story throughout the album. It's just, like, a bunch of different stories with, like, a bunch of different characters. It almost reminds me of, like, Up in Hudson by the Dirty Projectors.
Okay.
Like, each song kind of has that feel, but with, like, country twang. So it's gonna be, like, when I met this girl, like, this was going on, and
okay.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I think I've recommended one Dr. Dog song to you before, and I can't remember what the name of it was. But neither of us ever listened to recommendations. So, yeah, that's my 4.
Lyrically, would you say he's, like, on par or better with Father John Misty? Or is it, like, different...
On par. Definitely on par. I'm not going to say better only because Father John Misty, like, really does tell such crazy stories. But it does have, like, a very different feel to it than Father John Misty. Like, Father John Misty is going to be, like, deep with his lyrics in a way that Dr. Dog doesn't usually do. It's not going to awaken any, like, profound, you know, kind of sense of emotion or, like,
you're not going to be thinking about the universe.
No. Instead, you're just kind of, like, along for a ride, almost. You're, like... It's kind of like... Okay, so I'm a huge literature nerd. Listening to Dr. Dog is kind of just like reading a book, like reading a fantasy story almost.
We may have talked about this band, but like what you're saying reminds me a lot of like Donald Fagen and Steely Dan, like where Steely Dan has a lot of these more, they create a character and then just like go with that story, and it's like one-offs, but everything kind of just has its own universe.
Yeah. So definite vibes like that, definitely.
All right. Well, when I was looking through the aggregate, this was one of the last CDs I've listened to, actually, literally maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. And I didn't think it was going to gel as much, but as the CD was going on, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. I'll even put this above a lot of CDs I've listened to constantly. And that is Noname Room 25.
No name? Like, no name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Okay, yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know who Noname is, her name is Fatima, hopefully I get this right, Fatima Naima Warner. You might have heard her first on the song Lost on Chance the Rapper's, Chance the Rapper, not Chance the Raptor, his CD Acid Rap. She was featured on that. And I will say that there's a lot of rap albums this year that were very underwhelming to me. I think it might just be the whole trap movement. But there wasn't a lot of albums that like gripped me in terms of rap the way that this one did. And just from the beginning with her intro song Self, and just talking about like how you may be listening to the song, like maybe you're driving in the car thinking about life, or maybe you're thinking about that last chicken wing. And just like her flow is fucking incredible. It's so laid back, it's so chill, yet just like her like stream of consciousness and how all of it just works.
It feels
so
like listening
well.
to your wisest friend just talk to you about life. Like
Yeah.
that, because her voice is so relaxed, so melodic, but like...
But because of that, you just listen, you pick out certain things. And whether she's talking about how women are portrayed in rap, or whether she's talking about the black community in general and all the things that are going on, or politics, it just like the way that she talks about it just works so well. And there's even a feature with Seba, who his album I really enjoyed as well this year. Just all of it. It's about like 35 minutes, but it just feels like it goes so quickly. You want to hear it more. I love all the instrumentals. I'm a huge fan of like the more hip hop, R&B, jazzy type of rap, and this just like fits so perfectly.
Yeah, I'm a huge Noname fan. Honestly, she changed her name for this album. That's why it like... For a second, I was like, I thought you were saying no name, like split.
Like no slash.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know that. Why are you looking at me expectantly? But no, she's brilliant. I fell in love with her because of the Chance the Rapper song. And this album just like didn't disappoint at all. Also, really cool fun fact about this album, the person she originally hired to do the album artwork was accused of sexual harassment by someone. Without a thought, she delayed the release of the album until she found another artist to like release the album under. Like delayed the release. Everyone was expecting it. Just she's really cool, honestly, and like all of her lyricism is very profound, but in such an approachable way. Mm-hmm. I agree. That's a really great album. I'm honestly like I'm like that's in my top 15 of the year for sure.
Hello again. This might look a little bit different, and it's for two reasons. One, this video has already been 50 minutes long, and to the point where I almost lost my whole entire battery. So thank you for sticking. I hope you got some food, you're enjoying some popcorn, you're laying in bed and just listening to us drone on. I hope you enjoy it so far. We got 3 more each, so hopefully we can get to that pretty quickly. So
we'll try to hustle through it.
What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Crush Crusher by Ian Sweet. Ian Sweet is like a really, really cool female punk indie artist. It used to be a 3-member band.
Okay. But
Jillian, the lead singer, she broke off. She's doing her own thing, still under the name Ian Sweet. This album is a solo album. So good. So good. Really about like relationships and romance, which I'm not usually too fond of in an album. But I mean, the heartbreak she went through a lot in her personal life before recording this album, and you can just feel like all of the emotions that she was feeling during that whole time in this, but just in a way that's so brilliantly executed. She's wicked cool, plays the bass. Like she's like one of my big music inspirations.
A woman after your own heart.
A woman after my own heart. I don't know. I can't even expand upon it really. It's like touching. It's really touching. Mm-hmm. There's this one song, Hiding, on the album that she released as a single. And just, like, when you listen to it, you feel it. You can remember every relationship you've ever had in your life. And, like, it like, hurts. It's almost painful, but in, like, such a beautiful way. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever listened to Ian Sweet.
Never heard of them.
Ian Sweet, yeah. They started local from Boston.
Okay.
I went to see him live like a couple years ago. Do you know Frankie Cosmos or like Girlpool?
Girlpool, yes.
Yeah, so very like vibes kind of similar to that. Just very like melodic punk music, not too grating, like different kind of punk than like Parquet Courts, in which it's just kind of like she'll go on these jams that like kind of play to like the angry, chaotic parts of punk music, but with such a like melancholy almost undertone. It's a really good album.
So like Jeff Rosenstock, is that like...
Yeah, kind of. But she also just has such an incredible voice. Mm-hmm. Like her range is phenomenal. Like you'll hear in a song her go from like something like super duper duper low and like steady and like hard hitting and deep to just like the craziest, most whimsical high note, and it just shocks you. Like she's really talented. This album just holds a really special place in my heart.
Okay.
I think there's like 1 or 2 songs that I did not like as much as her last album. And that is probably the only thing that keeps this from being my number 1. Just because like her last album, like if I had done this last year, her last album would have been my top.
Mhm.
She, like I said, she's a woman after my own heart, so I'm kind of biased when it comes to her, but definitely worth checking out. She is brilliant, and it's a really good album for when you're sad about your love life. So yeah, shouts out Ian Sweet, love her.
Sounds like I gotta check it out.
Yeah, sounds like you might.
So my 3 have basically been set in stone for most of the year. And it was more like, can these 3 be topped? And nope, they haven't been. So number 3 for me is Tremonti, their album A Dying Machine. So you may have heard, his name is Mark Tremonti, and most of you probably don't know that name, other than if you listen to my top 10 in 2016, he had a CD called Dust, which was in my top 5. You may have heard him, though, as the guitarist for Alter Bridge, or the guitarist for Creed.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So this guy has been a mainstay in the music industry, even though he hasn't had the name recognition. He's one of my favorite guitarists. He's very underrated. If I had like an underrated band, he would be my guitarist, which is a fun game to play at some point in time. But he's phenomenal, and every single year he's gotten better. In 2012, he started doing his solo work, and he's had 3 albums before this. This one isn't as intricate, like in terms of guitar work, as say some of his other stuff. But what he does is he has a concept. He also put a book with this as well.
Wow.
I haven't gotten it. I haven't read it because I don't read, because reading is for nerds.
Yikes. It says as we film in a library,
as we
by the way.
Film in a library. I'm sorry, I've never learned how to read. But it's fantastic. The concept isn't like the most amazing thing. It's about like man versus machine, and like a machine army that's going to destroy mankind. But there's one that like is like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to fight for the humans kind of idea. It's very like, yeah, it's not the most interesting idea, but musically, every song hits so hard.
I think that's a pretty interesting concept.
It is okay. Maybe like throughout the music itself, it's like
just not executed in a way that makes it compelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
But musically, it's fantastic. It's very much speed metal, kind of thrash metal-ish. It has some tinges of Metallica in senses, but there are some more radio-friendly songs at times that work very well. The First to Last is a fantastic one. The beginning song is just so powerful. Bringer of War, which is just so in your face the whole entire time. And every song, for the most part, fits very well into it and just does different things. As the Silence Becomes Me is this beautiful ballad that has awesome harmonies on there. The guitar work is great. A Dying Machine is fantastic. Like every song, I know I keep repeating myself, but every song is great. And the only reason why it is only number 3 is because there's maybe 1 or 2 songs that don't work as well. And then the last song, Found, feels a little bit weird comparatively. I've kind of have the idea of it being, it's kind of more like atmospheric with like electronic tinges, and my thought process is like it's the robots finding whatever this resistance is, and like if that's the case, then there might be a second part to this, which I would love.
Yeah.
But if it's a standalone, it feels weird in comparison to what the previous song was. I think the previous song would have worked as a great ender.
Interesting.
And that's where it like gets docked a little bit.
You think they might be like setting up to
do a second part? There might be.
I want to say I like that, but I don't know how I feel about like using albums as like a chapter book almost, like, or like a book series, you know. I don't know. That's a lie though, because I do like that concept in like a lot of other music.
Well, that's why I always love listening to albums, because the way I look at it is a lot of people look at it just for songs, and that to me is kind of just like you are watching one part, like 5 minutes of a movie, or you're looking at one chapter of a book. Why not listen to everything instead of just deeming a CD or an artist because of one song?
I like that. I get that.
I think
Such a weird concept.
I think I know your last two, by the way. I think I know.
I think you might. I know
think
you're disagreeing with me on my number 2.